There are no negatively charged particles in the universe. Negative electricity discharges while positive electricity charges. Positive electricity produces the condition of gravity by compressing. Negative electricity produces the condition of radiation by expanding. It is impossible for one of the polarized conditions to be present without the other. For each other's opposite borns its mate, and it interchanges with it until each one becomes the other. A New Concept of the Universe, page 58 by Walter Russell. Modern science claims that the negative charge repels negative charge and attracts positive charge, whereas actually negative charge repels both negative and positive charge. Magnetism is the repellent or separative force of the universe of disintegrating matter. Electricity is the attractive force of the universe of integrating matter. Positive electricity is an endothermic, contractive force which is actively absorbing a comparatively large quantity of generative light units of heat, which raises its potential and is expelling a smaller number of them, devitalized into magnetic radioactive emanations, thus slightly lowering its potential. Negative electricity is an exothermic, expansive force which is relatively absorbing a small quantity of generative light units of heat, which instantly raises its potential and expelling a greater number of them, devitalized into magnetic radioactive emanations, thus lowering its potential. Now must it be clearly understood that magnetism, expelled by electricity from within a charging system, did not enter the system as magnetism or as negative electricity. It entered as positive electricity and became devitalized into negative electricity by nuclear absorption of its positive charge. It was then expelled from the higher inner pressure to the lower outer pressure of the system in the form of magnetism. The fact that electricity expels magnetism does not mean that it repels it. Expulsion is not repulsion. Expulsion is the result of electric attraction, which causes electrically charged particles to draw closer together. The effect of closer assemblage is a centripetal effect of contraction, which squeezes magnetism away from the spaces between the integrating particles of electric preponderance. The magnetic flow resulting from the squeezing process is merely the reaction of the action of squeezing. The action of electricity might be likened unto the compression of a spring from within. The reaction of magnetism might be likened unto elastic resistance to that compression by an exactly opposite pressure of expansion from within. The very attempt to divide the one substance, still magnetic light, gives the appearance of, but does not make two substances. It only develops two equal states of motion, which man calls forces. It but creates two illusions. Just so with positive electricity and negative electricity. They are not two forces. They are but aspects of one force attempting to separate each by its own opposite method, thus becoming two forces. They never succeed in doing so. Each is charged with the other, permeated more or less in accord with its periodicity. We are taught that opposites attract, but if this was so, then opposite poles of magnets would be at their centers, not their ends. When the positive pole of a magnet is brought into contact with the negative pole of another magnet, the effect that we think of as attraction is one of voidance. It is a cessation of opposition or power to manifest anything. Polarity utterly ceases at this point, and each opposite extends to each opposite end, each getting away from and through the other spirally as far as they can. To say that opposites attract each other, therefore, is the equivalent to saying that north attracts south, inward attracts outward, wetness attracts dryness, or that darkness attracts incandescence. From The Secret of Light, page 155. This is a reading from Walter Russell's The Secret of Light, chapter 12. Light cannot be seen, it can only be known. Light is still. The sense of sight cannot respond to stillness. That which the eyes feel and believe to be light is but wave motion simulating the idea of light. Like all things else in this electric wave universe, the idea of light cannot be produced. Electric waves simulate idea only. They do not become idea. When man sees the light of the sun, he believes that he is actually seeing the light when the nerves of his eyes are but feeling the intense, rapid, short-wave vibrations of the kind of wave motion which he senses as incandescence. The intensely brilliant, vibrant electric current mirrored into his senses of the eyes fairly burns them. They cannot stand that high rate of vibration. The eyes would be destroyed by such a vibration, but light would not be the cause of that destruction. Fast motion, simulating light, would be the cause. It would be like sending a high-voltage electric current over a wire so fine that the current would burn it out. Man likewise cannot see darkness. The nerves of his eyes which sense motion slow down to a rate of vibration that he can no longer feel. Man is so accustomed to the idea that he actually sees light in various intensities, illuminating various substances to greater or lesser degree, that it is difficult for him to realize that his own senses are but acting as mirrors to reflect the various intensities of wave motion. But that is all that is happening. Every electrically conditioned thing in the universe reflects the vibrations of every other thing, to fulfill its desire to synchronize its vibrations with every other thing. All matter is the motion of light. All motion is expressed in waves. All light waves are mirrors that reflect each other's conditions unto the furthermost star. This is an electrically conditioned wave universe. All wave conditions are forever seeking oneness. For this reason, all sensation responds to all other sensation. Much controversy has arisen as to whether light is corpuscular, as Newton claimed, or waves. There is much evidence in favor of both theories. It is both. Light is expressed by motion. All motion is wave motion. All waves are expressed by fields of equal and opposite pressure of two-way motion. The entire volume within wave fields is filled with two opposite expressions of motion. The positive expression that compresses light into solids, and the negative expression that expands it into space surrounding solids. All space within wave fields is curved. Curvature ends at planes of zero curvature that bound all wave fields. These boundary planes of omnipresent magnetic light act as mirrors to reflect all curvature into all other wave fields in the universe, and as fulcrums from which motion in one wave field is universally repeated. Together, these constitute what we call matter and space. It has been difficult to conceive light as being purely corpuscular, for light is presumed to fill all space. Space is not empty. It is full of wave motions. Corpuscles of matter are one half of wave cycles of light. Space is the other half. There need be no mystery as to whether light is corpuscular or wave, for waves of motion which simulate the light and darkness of space is all there is. The light and motion of solid matter and of gaseous matter of space differs only in volume and condition. Water of earth is compressed into small volume, while water of the heavens is expanded thousands of times in volume. Each condition is the opposite half of the cycle of water. Water vapor is water turned inside out. It again becomes water by turning outside in. Expansion-contraction sequences result from this process. Water of the heavens still is water and is still light waves. No change whatsoever has taken place between the waters of earth and those of the heavens, except a change of its condition from positive to negative preponderance. This change is due solely to a change of its direction in respect to its center of gravity. All dense cold matter, such as iron, stone, wood, and all growing or decaying things are light. We do not think of them as light, but all are waves of motion, and all waves of motion are light. Light is all there is in the spiritual universe of knowing, and simulation of that light in the opposite extensions is all there is in the electric wave universe of sensing. The simulation of light in matter is not light. There is no light in matter. Perhaps the confusion which attends this idea would be lessened if we classify everything concerning the spiritual universe, such as life, intelligence, truth, power, knowledge, and balance as being the one light of knowing, and everything concerning matter and motion as being the two simulated lights of thinking. Thinking expresses knowing in matter, but matter does not think, nor does it know. Thinking also expresses life, truth, idea, power, and balance by recording the ideas of those qualities in the two lights of matter in motion. But matter does not live, nor is it truth, balance, or idea, even though it simulates those spiritual qualities. Man's confusion concerning the differentiation lies in his long assumption of the reality of matter. His assumption that his body is his self, that his knowledge is in his brain, and that he lives and dies because his body integrates and disintegrates has been so fundamental a part of his thinking that it is difficult for him to reverse his thinking to the fact that matter is but motion and has no reality beyond simulating reality. The light which we think we see is but motion. We do not see light. We feel the wave vibration set up by the motion that simulates light. But the motion of electric waves that simulate light is not that which it simulates.
A reading from the book The Secret of Light by Walter Russell. And I'm starting just right somewhere along the beginning of it. The ascent of man from the dark to the light is the forever repetitive play of man on the planet of suns. When all mankind has found the light, the play will be finished. Likewise, this planet will be finished as an abode for man. It will then be rolled off into its ever-expanding orbit, while Venus is gradually being rolled into place to become the stage for the next repetition of the ascent of man in this solar system. We actors of the play must therefore be content with the lines of the play revealed to each of us in light. We must likewise be ever joyous at our continuous transformation, as each one of us learns our part line by line, the better to fulfill it worthily. All parts of the play are experiences which become the action of the play. All man's experiences are part of his unfolding. Each experience is a part of his journey from the dark to the light. All experiences are steps in that journey to his mountaintop of glory. All experiences, therefore, are good experiences. There is naught but good. There is no evil. There is naught but life. There is no death. Now these are the words God gave Russell. I am the one whole, the all. Glorify thou me, the one whom I am, for I am all, and no other is. I, the sexless one, am unity. What I am, thou art, for thou art me, thou art the whole. Glorify thyself, for in so doing thou art glorifying me. I, the one whole, am knowing mind. I exist to think. All thinking is light of my knowing, but my thinking is not me. I am creator, creating with my thinking. Out of my light of knowing are my two lights of thinking born, as sexed pairs of opposites, for repetition as sexed pairs of opposites. To think is to create. I create with light. Nothing is which is not light. I think ideal. Light registereth my ideal in the two sex lights of my thinking, and form is born in the image of my thinking. Form hath no existence, nor hath my imaginings. These exist not, for they are not me. I alone existeth, I, the all. I create my imaged body with the inbreeding of my pulsing universe of me. My universe is my image, but my image is not me. All things are my image, but they are not me, even though I am in them and they in me. Now this may sound confusing, but Russell goes on in his own way of saying what God has just said. He makes it a little more plain to understand it. So this next chapter is called Creator and Creation. God, the Creator, is all that there is, all that exists. God's creating universe of matter in motion appears to exist. To our senses, it sequentially disappears to reappear. It has no reality. It but simulates reality through the illusion of two-way projected lights in motion. God, the Creator, is the one being, the one person, the one mind, the one thinker, the one self, the one life, the one soul, the one power, the one reality. God's creation is the imaged pattern form of God's imagining, built in His image. It is the body of God, the record of His thinking, created by Him for expressing the oneness of life, love, mind, soul, and power, which is in Him alone. The one light. God is light. God is universal mind. Mind is light. Mind knows. Mind thinks what it knows. Mind thinks in two opposed lights, simultaneously projected from their centering white light source, and sequentially repeated in cycles. God's thinking and imagining are qualities of God's knowing. God's knowing mind is timeless and still. So also are God's thinking and imagining timeless and still. So likewise, man's thinking and imagining are as timeless and still as is his knowing. Stillness never can be motion or become motion, but it can appear to be. Motion merely seems, but stillness always is. The universal equilibrium can never be other than its own balance, but it can seem to be. The illusion which is motion springs from stillness and returns to stillness. This is a universe of rest. There is naught but rest in the universe. Mind knows its one ideal of creation as one whole. Mind thinks its one whole ideal into seeming parts, hence the illusion of motion, which we call creation, and the illusion of substance, which we call matter. Matter, motion, time, change, dimension, and substance have no existence. The light of knowing mind alone exists. There is but one mind and one thinker. The one light of knowing mind is self of God. It is the universal self which centers all omnipresent self-creating bodies of God's selves. This self-creating universe is the mind-imagined body of God and record of God's thinking. We can know God. We cannot know His body, but we can see it. Likewise, we can know man. We cannot know the body of man, but we can see it. What God is, man is. God and man are one. Our seeming duality. We seemingly live in two universes, the still cosmic mind universe of knowing, and the moving thoughts of mind rhythmic wave universe of sensing. We cannot sense the cosmic universe of God's knowing, nor can we know the thought wave universe of God's thinking. The cosmic mind universe of the one light of all knowing is all that is. The vibrating thought wave universe of sensing merely seems. The cosmic God light, the one still light of God, is the cosmic light which watches over all creating things at countless points locatable by man but invisible to man. Man's senses have misled him into believing in a force called magnetism, which attracts compass needles and lifts tons of steel. These phenomena of motion are due to electricity and not to magnetism. The cosmic light is absolutely still. It neither attracts nor repels. We now need to comprehend the nature and purpose of the magnetic poles of suns, planets, and all other moving extensions of the one light. Likewise, we need to know the nature and purpose of the two electric workers which interweave this light mirage of seeming motion and dissolve it sequentially for rebuilding. This will give a foundation of knowledge to man which will enable him to see behind the illusions which deceive his senses. The time has come in the history of man's journey from his material jungle to his spiritual mountaintop, when it is imperative that he must live more and more in the cosmic light universe of knowing, and less in the electric wave universe of sensing. Man must know that his power lies in the stillness of his centering self, and not in the motion by means of which he manifests that stillness. He must know that his self is God in him.
Concerning dimension, the divine concept of a universe of form is the idea of the image-making faculty of mind. The divine concept is but an illusion of divine imagination. Mind thinks the idea of mind into an illusion of form. Dimension appears when form appears. Form appears as a result of motion generated by the concentrative impulse of thinking. Form disappears as a result of motion radiated by the deconcentrative, alternate, reactive impulse of thinking. Creation, therefore, is but an illusion due to complex states of motion. All motion is comprehensible. All motion is caused by thinking mind. All motion is controllable by mind. All comprehensible motion is measurable. Measures are dimensions. Dimensions are the intervals which define the relation of one illusion of form to another. Dimension disappears with the disappearance of the illusions it defines. All illusions of form are but varying states of motion locked into the separate states of potential which define those illusions. All states of motion are orderly and periodic. All states of motion, no matter how complex, are reducible to 10 octaves of 7 tones each, plus their midtones and their master tones. All creation is reducible to about 140 elements, which tell the entire complex story of God's thinking, just as all literature is reducible to 26 letters, which tell the entire complex story of all of man's thinking. Neither have any existence beyond their ability of expressing, in form, the manifesting idea of creative mind. The elements of matter are all of the same substance in varying states of motion. Gold is not one substance, and carbon another, and phosphorus still another. Gold differs from carbon, and silicon differs from copper, only by the relation of their intervals in motion, or the measurements of their separate dimensions which, when aggravated or agitated, constitute their separate states of motion. The divine concept is not a universe of motion, but an idea in form. Motion is necessary to produce the form of idea. It is an attribute of thinking. It is not a principle. Man labors in the bowels of the earth for metals which he can create for himself with ease, when he fully comprehends the motion which he has assembled the forms of the elements out of the idea of the divine concept. All that is in creation is fashioned into the form of an idea by the 10-octave alphabets of thinking mind. Knowledge of the dimensions of each state of motion will give man the power to produce from the most plentiful of them those which are most rare. That which nature has taken millions of years to produce through orderly interchange of potentials, man may produce in a few hours by forced interchange. There is no substance which nature can produce that man cannot also produce, when he knows the dimensions which measure the illusions of form of the substance. Man has control of more energy than is necessary to transmute any one element or any other compound into any other element or compound. All that he lacks is the knowledge or dimensions in order that he may transmute the state of potential energy locked up in a state of motion called carbon into the other state of motion called gold, and he may have all that he desires at the cost of a very slight effort. The formula for measuring all dimensions of the various elements of matter will herein be written down and charted with all exactness, to man's burden of heavy labor may be lightened. Years will pass before civilization will have adjusted itself thoroughly to the changed conditions which this new knowledge will bring to the world. But from this change a new civilization will spring. These are the dimensions which, when known and measured, will make man master, and that he will be able to evolve, or devolve, or transmute, or synthesize the elements at will. The dimensions are: first is length, second, birth, third, thickness, fourth, duration or time, fifth, sex, sixth, pressures, seventh, potentials, eighth, temperature, ninth, ionization, 10th, crystallization, 11th, valence, 12th, axial rotation, 13th, orbital revolution, 14th, mass, 15th, color, 16th, plane, 17th, tone, 18th, ecliptic. These dimensions are characterized by one outstanding peculiarity common to all of them: an orderly periodicity. Beyond these 18 dimensions and their inclusions, there are no more measurable intervals of motion. When all of these periodicities are characterized and their mathematical calculations computed with exactness, it will be very simple for the ingenuity of man to devise this mechanical apparatus necessary to decrease any high potential into any lower one, or increase any lower potential into any higher one. Acceleration and deceleration are now measurable. Temperature, tone, color, valence, ionization, and those pressures which are known are now measured. Mass is measurable. Known orbits are now measured, and the unknown ones will be measured when they have been made known. The waves, which constitute the complex of all elements, have already been computed. The spectrum has been divided, and the elements assorted into about 7,000 color lines of light, but they are as meaningless to man as the Hebrew language is to the Gentile. These 7,000 lines of light are the letters of the universal language of light, the language in which God speaks to man. When man knows this language, he will then think in it. When he thinks in light, he will then know that he is the Son of God, and that he is one with God. When man thinks in light, he will then know that he is universal mind, that he is all that is, that he is thinking mind expressing his thinking in light, that he is omnipotent, omnipotent, and omnipresent. He will then know that he is life, and that life is eternal, and that there is no death, and that he has neither place nor position in space or time, and that dimension is as though it were not, and that there is but one, and that one he, and you, and me, and the rolling hills, and the sands of the sea, and the clouds, and the stars, and the little violet blooming in the meadow. Already man has gone a far way toward the solving of the great secret of the creating universe which lies hidden in the elements. Within God's alphabet of light has locked secrets, or the locked secrets has long awaited the master key of knowledge to open the doors to man. Man is mind. Mind creates and controls the energies of the elements. Mind may rearrange these energies and combine them in accordance with its desire. Now must be constructed the cosmic clock by means of which all dimensions may be measured by one formula, as time is measured by the formula of hours, minutes, and seconds. Heretofore it has been written down that the periodicity is an absolute characteristic of all effects of motion, with two exceptions. All dimensions of all effects in motion are of the same orderly octave periodicity. These two exceptions are cyclic periodicity. Octave periodicity is an orderly progression to and from the maximum effect of each octave. Cyclic periodicity is an orderly progression to and from the maximum effect of the entire cycle. Thus may it now be simply stated that all periodicities of all motion, of whatever nature, with two exceptions, may be built up on the following extremely simple formula. I will include the formula of the lock potentials in the video. The two exceptions to this octave periodicity are mass and tone. Mass means weight. Tone means sound. Mass accumulates all down the entire 10 octaves. Tone lowers from the highest note down the cosmic keyboard to the lowest. The zero represents inertial energy, and the numerals represent the orderly progressions in the lock potentials and pressures in orbits. Thinking mind has devised these orderly progressions and as its method of evolving the idea of universal thinking into the appearance of form and devolving it into the disappearance of form. The numerals of this formula are the hours of the cosmic clock. They are in the relative positions of the atoms of the elements and in the order of their respective varying dimensions. The seconds of the cosmic clock are the corpuscles, or light units, which make up of the atom's structures. The hand of the clocks are the indicating line of charging and discharging potential. The mainspring is the 10-octave cycle. 5 of these octaves are decelerated.
The Man Who Tapped into the Secrets of the Universe, written by Glenn Clark. Glenn Clark, searching for a versatile genius who knew and used universal law and would be an inspiration to others, found Walter Russel, musician, illustrator, portrait painter, architectural designer, sculptor, business practice advisor to employees of international business machines, champion figure skater, natural scientist, philosopher, and author. "Can you give me the secret of your life?" asked Glenn Clark. "I believe sincerely that every man has consummate genius within him. Some appear to have it more than others only because they are aware of it more than others are, and the awareness or unawareness of it is what makes each one of them into masters or holds them down to mediocrity. I believe that mediocrity